So in terms of fear, the fear, in my opinion, is over. It's just too much
Yeah.
because the chance if you don't have any issues, you don't have any problems, the chances of you falling into this net that they're casting is going to be minimal,
Hmm.
minimal at best.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Family Business with the Alessis, where family is everybody's business. And today, Steve Alessi is coming at you, and I have a great guest that's joining us. His name is Abe Cardenas.
Hello.
And yes, he is from the Cardenas Law Firm. You're going to love this today, especially as we deal with something that is hitting our South Florida community in a big way. So, Abe, great to have you.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Real pleasure. I'm glad that you called me, and let's talk. Let's get this out there because a lot of people need to hear this.
Yes. Now, we're dealing with the immigration issue today. All
Big
right.
hot topic right
Mhm.
now. Yeah, with the new administration, President Trump's approach to
Mhm.
immigration, let's call it that. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of press, a lot of also a lot of misinformation, a
Yeah.
lot of I mean, I hate to say that this past week, and I actually took the time to look at some of the things that are out there in the social media world. Besides my stuff, what other people are saying, and some of it was just made up,
Yeah.
just fear mongering, just
Yep.
incredible. So let's discuss
Let's
that.
do it. Okay. I'm looking at your business card here. You are a full service immigration and
Yes,
nationality law firm,
that is
which
correct.
means what?
It means that I practice immigration law all over the United States as an
Yep.
immigration attorney. I take cases on all over the country, not just in Florida,
Hmm.
anywhere.
Yeah.
I've flown all over the country. I've been traveling, doing this for a long time now,
All
and I
right.
love
Now,
it. I love doing it.
your firm's core value is the future
Yeah,
is
we
your
have
mission.
right. Your future is our mission.
Yeah.
That's the motto of our law firm. Your future is our mission. That's what we work at. We
Yep.
use the law. We know the law. We know how to use it. We know how to apply it. And if you're in the United States of America and you need an attorney because your immigration status needs to be fixed,
Yeah.
we know how to apply the law and use the law fervently to defend you and to
Yeah.
try to make things right.
Well, you've been in our church for a number of years. You enjoy a good cigar from time to
Oh yeah.
time, and you enjoy to get out in the garden.
Oh, I
But you
love
don't
gardening.
evidently don't have much time for either of those right
Yeah,
now
lately
with
my
everything
garden's
going
been
on.
suffering a little bit, but I'm I'm gonna get back to it.
Yeah. So here in South Florida, we're all immigrants,
Yep.
and it's our community. And with the new administration's adherence to the laws and enacting some new processes, it's creating a lot of anxiety and fear, which is to be
Yeah.
expected in our community. So you're on the law side of it. We see the humanities side when they
Yeah.
come to church, and there's really fear. You're on the law side of it. These people come to you, and you also see the fear. So
Yeah.
let's try to help people get a grip on some truths that they should be really focusing on so that they don't have to be so afraid. So, what would you say to the person that comes to your office?
Well, first of all, one of the things I started doing when President Trump started his campaign for this second term is I would listen to what he said.
Hmm.
And when you listen to what he says, he predicted everything that's going on now.
Hmm.
Anybody who's been paying attention would say, well, he was just going to do it. And what he's doing now, I don't agree with everything that he's doing, naturally. I don't approve of it. I don't agree with a lot of the things, but he's doing exactly what you said. He's trying to adhere to the law. The last time we had a reform was in 1996 under President Clinton.
Mm.
And those laws were harsh. I mean, they were brutal. I was an attorney at the time, and I remember walking into courtrooms, and the judge, the government's attorney, and I would kind of look at each other and go, "Okay, let's continue this hearing just so that everybody gets a feel of what this new reform is all about." but it took away a lot of protections that were in the law before
Mm.
that. That's what's being applied. Finally, the laws are being applied as strictly as they are written. That's what at least the president is trying to do. Um, I will say this, okay? Let's start with the concept of fear. Who really has to be afraid? Is people who have deportation orders, people who have criminal history, especially depending on the criminal history. Now, if you have, I don't know, you blew, 3 red lights or something like that, we're not talking about that. We're talking about genuine criminal history, any kind of fraud issues, any kind of theft issues, any kind of violence
Mhm.
involved, drugs are fatal. Any kind of drug history, yeah, they're looking for you, and
Mm.
that's who the administration is really trying to target. Now, the unfortunate thing is that, um, you know how the federal government is, right? They throw the net, and they're reaching to get these criminals and, everything the president said he wanted to do, but then you have people who are just here, they cross the border, they're illegal, they've been part of our community, just like all over Florida is full of people who have no immigration status,
Mhm.
but they don't have any criminal history. They don't have anything. In fact, many of them have been working and paying taxes and all that, and they fall into that net. Now, that's still a small minority of people. That's not a lot of people that fall into that, but they do.
Right. Right.
Um, so, in terms of fear, the fear, in my opinion, is over. It's just too much
Yeah.
because the chance if you don't have any issues, you don't have any problems, the chances of you falling into this net that they're casting is gonna be minimal,
Mhm.
minimal at best. Naturally, if you are in removal proceedings, like you're in court, right? Removal proceedings is where you're scheduled before a judge in immigration court, you better get an attorney. In
Yeah.
fact, I recommend anybody who has fear, the number one way to get rid of fear is just get an attorney. I was telling you before we started that you don't know how many people have come into my office and they've been here for years, some of them decades, and they never ever spoke to an attorney
Mm.
and they never figured out what they could do. And suddenly I'm talking to them and I go, well, in your case, we could have done this, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You have nothing to worry about. We're going to do this. And we fixed their situation.
Right.
But until you know the way to get rid of fear,
Yeah.
one of the ways to get rid of fear is knowledge, right?
Yeah. Get that knowledge.
Get
No.
someone
Mhm.
who knows how to explain things to you, to make an analysis of your case, because every case is different. One of the first things I do when I talk to someone is I just extract information because I need to put everything in the right order and say, okay, in your case, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Um, that's what my job is.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do when I first do consultations. And one of the first ways to get rid of fear is to speak to an attorney.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say an attorney, I mean an attorney, not these preparers that you find all over the place, paralegals that they call themselves, notarios. You can't, they don't know the law like an attorney like myself knows the law.
Yeah. And we're going to have your contact information in our notes of our show here so they can be able to contact you. You did say you're quite busy these days,
Oh, yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing.
No.
For such a time as this, Abe
Yeah.
is on this planet to
That's
help our
right.
friends. Well, I'm from the Alessi heritage is from the Italian
Right.
heritage, came from Italy. My great grandfather came through Ellis Island, came by himself for a
Wow.
number of trips to
So
prepare his
they're
family.
on the list in the book over there. You
They
can look
are,
them up.
yeah, you
That's
can look them up,
interesting. I
and
love
the
it.
whole we see it. But
Wow.
they went through their own challenges, and
Mhm.
it's so far removed from me that I'm not as an American, I'm not in touch with some of that anxiety and stress that now our immigrant community is feeling. So that's one of the reasons. That is the reason I wanted to do this right away with you, because I do think when I talk to you about this, and we get in our group, our counseling group, what you bring to the table just brings down the fear
Right.
of those that are listening. And even in I know it's extreme, what's happening. could be so extreme as you see these buses being loaded up and then people in shackles being put on airplanes. And then we're reading in the Herald and
Right.
our other news sources that these people are being rejected by their own government. And then tariffs are going to be placed on these governments if they don't do it right. And everybody immediately thinks, that's me. At any moment, somebody's going to come knocking on my door, even to the point that our Pastor Sam Rodriguez put on his feed, please, pastors, some of you are sending misinformation out there because you're saying that the government is going to raid our churches.
No, that's not the way it is. There was a lot of what I've read. it, uh, More than half of it turns out to be misinformation,
Right.
incorrect. The other day, there was a report that the ICE went into a school and all that. No, it wasn't ICE. It was
Yeah.
actually the Secret Service because they were investigating somebody who made some terror threats who happened to be a high school student.
Wow.
The report, some politician from it was in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, got on the mic in front of the cameras and said, "No, ICE came to the school." And that's not right. That's not
Yeah.
true. First of all, that's not their priority.
Hmm.
They have priorities, and their priority is criminals, people with removal orders, deportation orders. Um, so the first thing I would tell people is chill. Wow,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this president is turning things, stirring things up, but the majority of the people, even who are here without documentation, right? Um, they're fine. They're not gonna
Yeah.
be, they're not looking for them. If you
Hmm.
accidentally happen to stumble into their hands, it's because you were at the wrong place, at the wrong time, something like that.
Yeah. So help me out with this. If I'm coming if I'm coming from Venezuela, what is my first act? I get here, I'm on the streets, I'm living with family members. What am I doing next?
Well, first you should talk to an attorney,
Right.
okay? You have to do most of the people who are coming over the border and who were released, right? Because a lot of them came over the border in the last 3 or 4 years and they were released. They should have done an asylum because 98% of the time, that is all they have, nothing else.
Mm.
They need to file an asylum.
And an asylum is what?
As when you're asking the government of the United States for protection because you were in danger if you get sent back to your country.
Got it.
That's in a nutshell what an asylum is. There are 5 reasons for that. Venezuela, Cuba, and all the majority of them fall under what's called political opinion, where you're against the government.
Mm.
Somehow you expressed an opinion against the government and you were persecuted in your country because of that.
Mhm.
That's the first thing that they should do. Some folks who like enter on a tourist visa or something like that, and then they stay, um, they're just as without documentation as all the rest of them, but they have a different. They might have extra abilities to fix something if they've been here for years and suddenly they get married or something like that. There are solutions for them. But the majority of people who cross the border and come here, or even if they don't cross the border and they come from certain countries and they have nothing else like a family petition or anything like that, they must do an asylum.
Mhm.
Now, an asylum you have to be careful because you can't just make up a story. You can't just file an asylum because for the sake of it. You have to have at least a legitimate reason to file asylum because
Mhm.
there is a law that says that if you file a fake asylum or what they consider a frivolous filing, you're toast. You will
Mhm.
never, ever, no matter what, even if you get married after that and have 10 US citizen kids, you're never going to get anything. It's one of those unforgivable sins.
Yeah. All right. So
So,
then I apply for my asylum.
mhm.
Then what?
Depending on how fast they act on the asylum, then after that, you can apply for a work permit.
Mhm.
Generally, you have to wait 5 months. And that kind of like gives you some breathing space because now you have a work permit. Now you can get a social security number. Now you can get a driver's license and you become kind of part of society, right?
Mhm.
And here in South Florida, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are in that quasi limbo situation where they have an asylum pending because they filed it and they have their driver's license, they have social security numbers, they're working, they buy houses, they have cars, they have kids and everything. And 5, 10, 15 years go by and the
Wow.
government never calls them
Why is that?
because they're bogged. It's just
Yeah.
everything is taking forever.
So if something happens in between that period, you filed and then you have an accident or you get pulled over by the police.
And you remember this, we're talking about someone who came, did the asylum, got the work permit, now has a license and everything. If they have an accident, hopefully they have insurance and
Right.
everything, and they're fitting into
They're
society
already in.
almost as if
Yes.
they were born here, but the fact that eventually they're going to have to face the music with that pending asylum. Unless someone like me comes along and we find ways to solve problems for them, and the asylum then eventually just kind of like fades away. We
Mhm.
were withdraw it or something like that.
Mhm. And then
So,
from that standpoint then, I mean, a lot of this is it getting kind of backlogged,
oh yeah, no,
okay?
everything's backlogged. Everything.
What is this person doing? I mean, it's costing them money to with their
No,
attorney,
once they file the asylum, we just literally sit and wait
really?
for them to call them for the interview,
Mhm.
right? And that's what's taking years and years and years.
Yeah. So how could
Um,
our government then, because you always hear about, I guess the thing that stirs up some of the fears, you always hear about that one person that seemed to fall in the cracks, that was at the wrong place at the wrong time, that was doing it right, but somehow or other, the horror story is they were sent back.
there's always a reason why that happened.
It's not
And
just that
I,
they were it was a big
Yeah,
mistake.
I'll give you an example. So when you do certain processes, right, certain applications, they send you to go get what are called biometrics, fingerprints, right? And they do that in different parts here in Miami. Well, the other day, and this was unfortunately an attorney who posted that, oh, my client went to get fingerprinted and he got detained and he's being removed, deported, right?
Mhm.
Um, and all the other attorneys, this was part of an attorney's forum, and like we started asking a bunch of questions. Well, it turns out that the guy who went to get fingerprinted was being fingerprinted for an application called a 601A, which is like a waiver, a forgiveness for something, which it also turns out that he had a criminal history and he had a removal order and a deportation order. And in my head, and then all the other attorneys ganged up on him because like, dude, you can't just
Yeah,
say something like that, and that's the way these rumors get spread around, that don't go get fingerprinted because you're going to get detained and deported. No, this guy was a whole different ball game as to why he got detained, and he's probably already been deported because he has a deportation
right,
order. And once you have a deportation order, there's only one thing an attorney can do, and that's called a stay of removal, and it's a last, it's the Hail Mary, right? It's
really.
the last ditch effort. But you see what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
how misinformation happens.
Yep,
The majority of people who go, not that word is insufficient. Almost every single person who goes to get fingerprinted, the biometrics, they don't have any problems.
yeah.
They don't. They go walk in and they walk out.
Mhm. So
And
if you get injured, you're at a hospital, you don't have to worry about all of a sudden ICE coming in, raiding you,
not
taking you.
unless you have a deportation order, and unless
Yeah,
you have a, criminal history or something like that, and eventually, and somehow the authorities find out, immigration authorities find out.
right.
Again, the chances of that happening are minimal.
Mhm.
I'm not going to sit here and say that it hasn't been known to happen,
Right,
but it's a minimal thing. The majority of people just go on about their lives. They don't have the documentations. They're not legal in this country in terms of their documents and immigration status. They just go on about their lives.
yeah,
And yeah, with fear and hopefully looking for a way to fix things, speaking to professionals who know how to guide them.
right,
And here in South Florida, we have some really, really good professionals,
yeah,
really good attorneys, the ones that write the books.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
One of the one who writes what we couldn't consider the immigration Bible literally is just maybe 10 minutes from here.
yeah,
Smart guy from Brooklyn, like
come
me.
on, yep,
Yep.
very
And
good,
one of the smartest guy. He's a genius. And
excellent,
we've got good people here.
Okay.
including me.
Yeah, yeah. You wrote a book yourself. Love
Yeah.
that. All right, so help me this. If I've been here from foreign country 5 years, I haven't talked to an attorney, but I want to go now. Will that cause me any problems that I've been here without any kind of
It depends.
processing?
Again, it all depends. The facts of each case. It might, but most likely it might not.
Hmm.
The chances are that being here 5 years um, is not a problem. Now, if you only have a year to do an asylum, so if anybody out there knows anybody who just recently came, they only got a year to do an asylum. After that year, very limited probabilities of being able to file an asylum.
And that's just one reason
That
people would be able to file for them wanting to
right,
be here.
exactly.
Okay. So they missed that one, but they've been here, they're working.
There might be other things we can do for them. They're
Right.
depending on their situation,
Yeah.
how they entered, how they came to the United States.
I'm on
Um,
vacation. I'm visiting family. I I stay longer.
you overstay.
I overstay. What happens then?
Well, if you go back, you're toast. You're not, your visa is canceled, and most likely you're never going to be able to come back for probably at least 10 years. And even then, I wouldn't count on it.
Hmm. And so, how do I resolve that?
There is no
Come
solution.
on, come on, attorney.
There might be waivers that you might be on. Let's say that while you were here, you married somebody, you may be able to get a waiver. But there's this thing that if you enter the United States, the law, and these are laws that are older than me, and I'm
Okay.
old.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, these laws stem back. No, they're older than me because these laws are from the 50s or 40s. So this is well
See?
before me, well
Mhm.
before us. Yeah.
Us.
Um, but there's a law that says that if you come into the United States and you stay 6 months, but less than a year, and then you leave, you have what's called a 3-year bar. 3-year bar is like a punishment. For 3 years, you can't come back, and then after 3 years, you can try to come back legally by applying for this and that. But if you stay over a year, if you overstay for a year or more, there's a 10-year punishment.
Mm.
So if you come here and you stay for 10 years, for a year, and then you leave, that punishment automatically sticks to you. You're not
Yeah.
going to get the email, a letter, a fax, nothing. It's just when they figure it out that you overstayed for that long or more, that's when it comes. And those are the things that we look at. These are the things that I explain to people. There are ways to overcome that, but it's difficult,
Yeah.
as you can
But
imagine.
there's a possibility of it.
There are always possibilities.
So the thought is, if you're in that limbo and this thing right now with all this news, and it's not going to get any better, it if it's causing you angst, contact the attorney, come
Talk to
talk
a
to you.
professional. Come see me.
Just get
Let's have a
some
conversation.
options that
Yeah.
are out there to help eliminate that fear. Now, is it expensive? The process?
The consultation is not expensive.
Yeah.
Depending on what process applies to, yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But one of the things that still amazes me is I have people who they come to see me, and they tell me I spent 10, 15. The other day, some guy came to see me, and he told me he spent $35,000 to get some of the cartel people in Mexico to cross him into the
No
United States.
way.
35 grand. But the going rate is anywhere between 10 and 20,000. And then they come here and they're only halfway in, right? They made it. Maybe they got stopped at the border and they released them. Under the Biden administration, it's a common thing. That was a very common thing. And then now they're only halfway done. They have to fight for their papers now, and that's when they're like, "Oh, but it's so expensive." And we don't charge anywhere. No attorney that I know of here in South Florida charges anywhere near what these cartels
Smugglers.
charge them to smuggle them
Wow.
in. And that's not the time to start getting
Yeah.
cheap. You have to pay for good representation. You need at least get the consultation. After that, if you don't want to do it, at least you're going to know what's within your reach, what you
Yeah.
might be able to have to resolve your problem. But the whole idea, and I'm telling you, I've had people walk into my office and you just see it in their face, right? The anguish, the worry, just that non-sleeping and all the everything that comes with that. And then we have the half hour, the hour consultation, and they walk out as I'm explaining things to them and how there's hope in their case and how they have solutions. It, like, melts away, and I have
Mm,
seen physical transformations of people in my office, in the consultation rooms, just by talking to them.
yeah.
The fear goes away. They tell me, "My God, you give me so much peace. Your words are so comforting." I mean, they tell me things like that. The
Yeah.
other day, someone actually complimented me, and it was a way I didn't understand it at first because she said it in Spanish. She said, "Tú eres un abogado de vocación. You're an attorney with vocation." And I didn't understand it because I'm not Catholic. But when it was put to I asked other people, and they explained to me, well, vocation is like a priest, like someone who does it from the heart, they've dedicated their life to it. And then all of
Mm,
a sudden I understood, oh, like a priest who, they reject certain getting married and things like that, and they devote themselves completely to the
oh,
church. That's what they meant
yeah.
by vocation. And because she saw it in the way I was talking to her,
Sweet.
and she said, "You're an attorney by with vocation." And it's true because I do it
Hmm.
from the heart. I love what I
Yeah.
do. I love helping. I love giving solutions. I hate losing.
Well, you really are positioned for such a time as this, because
Uh,
these are good people. Our church community is made up with so many,
yeah, we
and
have a good church
we
community
do.
there.
And I have this saying, and I was reminded of it last night at our counseling session that you missed. Um, Roger was saying, I remember Pastor Steve saying when I was younger, you can't go wrong by doing right.
That's true.
And when it comes to this situation, some of that fear right away, when you're doing right, then you got to reject that fear. And reject it means you recognize what it is, but because of even your faith in God, that you don't have to allow that fear to overwhelm you, because you still know God has a plan. But
Oh,
the key
absolutely.
there is this: you got to do it right. And there are laws and there are attorneys
Yeah,
that could help you do it right. Because if you're doing it right, it eliminates even more fear. Now, I mean, even in the Bible, from a biblical perspective, there when it comes to even the nation of Israel, they tell them, I mean, there's always borders. Israel goes into the
absolutely.
promised land. He gave them borders and he told them to protect those borders. To this day, we see the borders in Israel with Palestine and Gaza, all that is going on. It's all because of borders that have been established. Borders are put in place, or fences are put in place to that need to be respected.
Yeah,
So it's not a come free, come one, come all. There has to be laws that are in place, borders, fences that are in place for protection that need to be respected. But with every fence or gate or a fence, there is a gate.
there's a gate. There's a
That
door. There's a way
There
in.
you go. There's that entrance point.
Right.
And that's where it's done right. When even as a believer, it's not this blind ignorance. I'm doing it. No, or even this blind innocence.
Yeah,
No, I've got to do it right. I've got to know how to go about becoming a legal citizen here
that's
in
right.
our country. We're all immigrants. We've come from somewhere that maybe just the again my Alessi name, it didn't originate here, but people had to do it right. And we just want to make sure that your voice, your expertise for people that are kind of wandering, not knowing what to do, there is a voice that they can lean into.
Yeah, we're here to help.
Yeah.
People like me, attorneys like me, are here to help, and there's so much. There are so many solutions. There are people who walking around with solutions, and they don't even know it because they
Yeah.
never bothered to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But the fear has got to go down. I was telling you before we started that the Bible says how many times in the Bible? I think it's 365 times in the
Yeah.
Bible, one for every day of the year. Be not afraid.
Yeah.
Be not afraid.
Yeah.
And even if you are afraid, you overcome it by, hey, it's in the Lord's hands, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
way to do it.
I told you a story, and we'll start to bring this in for a close, but years and years ago, her name was Mariela, and she had come from Argentina, and she was uh, being encouraged by counsel to get married.
Not my kind of counsel.
No, not your
No.
kind. To get married. That if she got married, then she would have her
Yeah,
citizenship, right?
a fake marriage, right?
Fake
A
marriage.
fake.
And it was going to cost her about, I think, and I could be wrong, but I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000 or
That was a
something
going rate many years ago.
many years ago.
Now it's like 15,000
Yeah,
or more.
crazy. And she was in our church. Now we didn't know she was dealing with that advice, but she would take a bus to get to the church because she was working on Miami Beach. And so one day she shows up to the office and she has an envelope filled with cash.
Wow.
And she says, I was on my way to get married. I was following the advice of my attorney to go and get married. And it was an arranged marriage situation just to give her that, right? And she says, but as I was going, the Lord spoke to me and said, who do you trust more? A man you're going to marry that you don't know,
You
or you're
don't
going to
know.
trust me? And she said, Lord, I'm going to trust you. And she came to church to give that offering. And the money that she was going to use to get married, she gave
That
as an
was her seed.
offering. That was her seed. And sure enough, the Lord opened the door for her. And a few years later, she met a gentleman. He wasn't a young man. She met a good gentleman, Greg, and the two of them ended up getting married. And to
Wow.
this day, she's got some beautiful kids. And she
See?
was a tremendous blessing to so many. Doing it right,
Doing it right.
trusting
In
God.
my office, no, we will never, I will never, never have, we'll say, hey, go get married and, let's do fake paperwork and everything. No, no, no. That's, first of
Yeah,
all, that's a federal felony.
it
And
is.
when they catch you, you know what they do? They stick you in the back room, the two big, immigration ICE investigators. And the first thing they want to know is, did the attorney know? Did the
Mm,
attorney know? Why?
yeah,
Because they want to get the attorney. So
sure.
I don't do that. I work as ethically as as possible. Certainly, we use the law. We use the law
Yes.
as much as we can to help people, but 100% ethically. I've kicked people out of my office when they come to me with these fake marriages and stuff. And the
Hmm.
one thing you will always get from our office and from me, and for what it's worth, the majority of the immigration attorneys I know,
Yeah.
is we will tell you, you come to my office and you have a possibility, I'm going to tell you. If you come to my office and you have no possibility, I'm going to tell you. You're going to
Mm,
get that. You are not going to get anyone who's going to try to squeeze a dime out of you when there's nothing I can do for you.
yeah.
That's another thing that I say to people so that they can drop the guard and be a little more fearless
Yeah.
because there might be a solution for you. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I think you can help so many just by being with us today, putting some fires out
Right.
with some truth and what is law. So I thank you so much for doing that. I mean, you may be on the road as you're listening to this podcast. Slow down for a minute. I'm going to give you a phone number, but you're going to be able to find it in our show notes. This is Abe Cardenas of the Cardenas Law Firm. And here's the phone number, okay? Take down this number 786 347 1605. 786 347 1605. If it's an emergency, there's a emergency line and WhatsApp 786 674 4357. 786 674 4357. You want to be able to get the right kind of information. I trust Abe. He's been a real brother in the house. He's one of our good fellas. He's one of us.
Got the
And
ring.
yes, got the ring and been to our camp.
Yeah.
and we trust him. And this is just so important. Thank you, giving us an hour. You just got out of court. You're here to help us get the word out, and we're going to get this posted right away so that our South Florida community, which, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that our mayor here in Doral, Mayor Fraga, councilman, and the women, they have been sending letters to our president,
Yes.
letting them know about our Venezuelan
Oh,
community.
I've started a letter writing campaign because, like I said, I don't agree with everything,
Yeah,
certainly. Um, and yeah, I
yeah,
think it's important if anybody out there is listening, letter writing is still a thing.
yes,
Okay, it's
yep,
still now it's easier because you can get on the internet and write a message and it'll go
hmm,
to the president, to a senator, or to a congressman,
yeah.
congresswoman here in South Florida or anywhere for that
Right.
matter.
And I would say because so many of our government leaders are elected officials, our councilmen, as well as our mayors and our senators and state senators and such, they are Latino and they themselves have their deep personal convictions.
Some of them are immigrants, and some of them
Yep.
are first generation immigrants where their parents were the ones that migrated
Yep.
to the United States, and they have that direct connection
The president's
to the
office.
issue. Yeah,
Yeah, and they're going to let their voices be known. So what we're sensing right now, because of so much of this is new, um, that this thing's going to balance itself out a little bit more, even as it's pertaining to Venezuela and what is going on.
that's true.
It's going to balance itself out a little bit. The pendulum is swung one way too far to just letting anybody and everybody come into America. Now it's swinging the
That's
other
true.
way. It's going to find its way to something that's more settled.
You hit on something that I wanted to say, and I forgot to mention it, and that is listening to Trump. He said that he was going to do things that are going to be very favorable to people who've been here a long time, paying their taxes, no criminal history, things like that. And he just mentioned it last weekend. He mentioned that he wants to expand the ability of people to come here,
Mhm.
people who with good qualifications to come here to work, not just the engineers, but and I'm quoting him, even like professional waiters and things like that. I think he's going to shock us. I
Yeah,
think he's going to shock us as much as he shocked us with the first 2 weeks of his administration in terms of immigration. I think he's going to shock us in that he's going to do something very favorable. And I say that to again calm people down. Give it time. I think you hit it right on the head where he swung this, he's clearing out. He's
yeah,
saying all this stuff about everybody coming in like this. This is his attitude, right?
yeah,
But I think, and I'm hoping and praying that he does, that I really believe he's gonna do something very good
yeah.
for a lot of people,
But
including our Venezuelan
yeah,
community who just got their TPS
there
withdrawn,
you go.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we got to clean out some of the riffraff, the criminals,
Oh,
the
yeah.
illegals, all of that. I know even the illegals, it's a bad term to use these
Yeah,
days.
I try to explain it. It's not that you are illegal, it's that you are in this country without documents, and therefore you don't have legal
Undocumented.
status. You're undocumented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's cleaning house. We need the house cleaned because of so many people being hurt by so many of these bad characters that have come to our country. But we do believe, I do believe that because America is a good country, it's a good nation, and our politicians do want the best for us. We're going to being a much more pleasant environment for our immigrants because our immigrant community. Hey, I love Miami.
Me
Okay,
too.
because of our immigrant
Exactly.
community, what it brings to our community to have every one of these different Latin American countries represented is so fun.
It is.
It's enriching.
It is.
So
It is.
we're pro immigrants here at Metro, pro immigrants as a nation. It's just got to be through the gates, not
They're
jumping over
they're way
fences.
right, and that's what I think this president is trying to do. Let's hope that he does good things for our community.
Yeah.
We're praying. We gotta pray. We gotta pray, a lot of prayer,
Yep.
and that he does good things for our community, him
Yeah.
and his administration.
And we're going to be very positive here.
Yes.
I hope that was uh, experienced by the listeners and viewers today. They sense that there's good in coming their way.
Yeah.
Something bad can turn out for good in the right environment. So it's a
That's
very
true.
positive feel. So thanks for your time. Appreciate
It's
you.
my pleasure to
You're
be
a good
here.
man, brother, for
Awesome.
real. All right. I hope today's episode of The Family Business with the Alessis has been an encouragement to you, especially as you that are in our community dealing with your immigration status. Listen, we're for you. We're praying for you. And we think God's best is still yet to come in your life. So thanks for joining us today.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and click on the notifications bell so you can be notified for all of our future videos. And if you loved today's topic, we have plenty more. And you can click on this link right here to watch all of our videos so you can learn why family is everybody's business.